Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 15. Today is July 3rd, 2021. This is the Squared Circle News Network, and it is Independence Day Eve. And I just want to wish everyone a very safe and a very happy Independence Day. You know, we do all these things on days like this in the summer. We've got our barbecues and our get togethers, and there's some drinking going on. And I just want to say, have a blast. That's what you should do. But just always remember the meaning behind some of these holidays. You know, Veterans Day, Independence Day. There's a lot more deeper things going on. And yeah, it's a holiday, and you've got your traditions, and it's definitely a day to have fun. But it's just if you've never looked into the story behind Independence Day and behind how the national anthem was written, and the whole story behind that about the flag being held up against an unbelievable onslaught, and just soldiers dying one after another, and just the bodies piling up and holding up the flag as Francis Scott Key looked on from a military boat from the opposite side, from the British. And the way the national anthem was written, I don't want to get too deep into this. I don't want to bring it down, but this is one of the reasons that I just get absolutely disgusted by athletes and anyone else who think it's a good idea to make your point by disrespecting the flag of the United States. If you're in a business, a line of work, if you're an athlete, if you have other things going on, and you can have some attention, you can have a platform to make a point, and by all means, if you have something to say, if you've got something that's important, you go for it. But when you turn your back on this flag of this country, to me, you're just a piece of garbage, because racism and so many other vile things that happen in this country are not policies of the United States. They're not indoctrinated in the United States. They're all individual choices. So take your stand against the individuals, but don't take your stand against the flag that gives you the freedom to do all the things that you do, that gives you the freedom to protest, to make your point, to speak your mind. You turn your back on that flag, you're turning your back on every soldier who made the ultimate sacrifice so that you could have all these freedoms. And you're just, end game, as far as I'm concerned, is the athletes. And I'm not talking about, athletes that don't leave the locker room for national anthems and things like that, but the single athletes that draw attention to themselves and do this thing. I just believe it's more of a cry for personal attention than it is to make a point. And I'm going to end it there. Just have a great holiday. Have a great 4th of July. Enjoy yourself. And just don't forget why we're all here and what gave us our freedom. So I am going to move on with this episode. Before I do, I just want to do the usual and thank everyone who took the time to watch, who's here on this stream and enjoying this, or just giving it a shot for the first time, whatever it may be. I appreciate it. And if you're here, why not click the subscribe button? You're probably watching a bunch of other podcasts. What's one more? Why not? And if you're clicking the subscribe button, click the thumbs up for a like. It'll help the channel. And hit that little bell also for notifications anytime that I post new content. If you have that bell clicked, you will be notified, and you'll be aware of when I put up new episodes. As usual, I'm going to start my format here. I've got this kind of flowing right now. I'm going to start with WWE, and last night's Smackdown episode has officially drawn an all-time low rating of 1.74, and this is absolutely a horrendous number. I'm sure that when Fox signed this deal with WWE and they put SmackDown on their network, they were expecting more than this. And there's going to be backpedaling and all sorts of cover-ups and lies and excuses for what's going on when the investors conference call happens again. And I always look forward to this, because to hear Vince McMahon and Triple H come up with all these different excuses as to why ratings is down, instead of just admitting that they're putting out a crap product right now, which would be the smart and honest and noble thing to do, and then work on fixing your product, they decide to make excuses. But 1.741 is ridiculously low for one of WWE's two major television shows between Raw and SmackDown. And, we know that Raw is treading around this ratings number, and they have been, and they're not showing any signs of getting any better. SmackDown has been, in a battle of two not very good shows, SmackDown has been traditionally and consistently, since their launch on Fox, a little bit better show. A couple more highlights. They got the Roman Reigns thing going. And as I predicted, they're running Roman Reigns down your throat again. And I knew they were handling it wrong. They're not, it's great that Roman Reigns is a heel. This is the best that Roman Reigns has ever been in his tenure with the WWE. The problem is WWE is not delivering on this storyline the right way. They're doing what they did when Roman Reigns was a face. They're making him unbeatable. He's crushing people. He's winning everything. There's no threat that anybody that gets in the ring with Roman Reigns is going to win. And that's the problem. When you already know what's going to happen, why watch? And that's what's happening again. And I predicted this at least a few episodes ago, and it's kind of coming around. And also, you've got Edge coming back to SmackDown last night off of an injury that he suffered. And Edge is one of those guys that I put into that past his prime legend throwback guy, and WWE just relies on this far too much. And I always said that this is just a Band-Aid for ratings and for bringing more viewers in. And sure enough, when Edge came back, there was a pop in ratings. And I've personally never been an Edge fan. But I see the appeal to Edge, and I understand the fans that want to see Edge and why he would give you that ratings pop. And believe me, when he came back, he looked great. He looked in the best shape of his life, but obviously aged. And regardless of what shape you're in, and clearly he's already had a couple injuries since he's been back. And is he not holding up well because of his age, because of his history of wrestling, because what it's done to his body? Regardless of how you look, there's underlying issues there. And Edge just doesn't seem to be able to keep it together long term without taking time off for injuries. And regardless, like I said, I've personally never been an Edge fan, but I always gave Edge credit. When Edge and Christian were a tag team in the height of their WWE careers, I always looked at Edge as the Shawn Michaels of that team. I always looked at him being the guy that if the tag team broke up, he'd excel. He'd be the guy that got more attention. Christian, without a doubt, has had a great career. He's won world championships every place he's been, except for AEW right now. But, here's a good point is the difference again, and I make these comparisons all the time, and I sound like a AEW mark, and you know what? I am. AEW is my brand of choice. I've said it before. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to pretend. If WWE had it together, if WWE was giving me the program that they gave me 30 years ago, I would be just as much a WWE fan now as I was then, regardless of what a scumbag Vince McMahon is and everything that goes on there. If they gave the programming, it would make all the difference in the world. But I'm making the comparison now between what AEW is doing with Christian, what WWE is doing with Edge. Edge came back into the WWE, and automatically everybody on the WWE roster that's been working their ass off for however long is back on the back burner, and Edge is automatically getting title shots. Christian, who is, as far as I'm concerned, he's just as well known as Edge. He's had a parallel career to Edge, although Edge again, did have more of that popularity. But Christian goes into AEW, and what happens? Everybody flips out because Christian talks about facing Kenny Omega. Nobody cared about Edge walking back into the WWE and automatically having title shots, but everybody was losing their shit over Christian just making a comment about wanting to face Kenny Omega. And AEW has handled this absolutely correctly. If Christian does get a title shot, he is without a doubt earning it. He's been in programs and storylines, and he's right now working this angle with Jungle Boy, which it seems like it's going to turn into a Christian heel turn. But regardless, if you're going to bring in an older character, or somebody that is still capable of getting in the ring but is obviously past their prime, and you want to give them a shot at that spotlight, at that title match, they still have to earn it, no matter who they are, no matter what their story is, no matter where they've been, no matter where they've come from. You cannot surpass all the talent that has worked so hard for so long and put one guy in the spotlight automatically. It's not fair. It's what WWE does over and over again. They do, and this is the same thing with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar takes as much time off as he wants. And WWE runs their sad little storylines, and then when they coming up on a big show and ratings have been at an all-time low, here comes Brock Lesnar ready for a title match. He's done nothing for approximately a year, and all of a sudden he's in the spotlight again. Everybody that's been working hard has got to sit back and watch while he gets the money and the glory. And this is one of the many, many things that is just painfully wrong with the WWE. And, I understand that Brock Lesnar, for whatever reason, is still a ratings draw, but it's not right. It's not how you build your business, and these ratings numbers show it. I can sit here all day and tell you what's wrong with the WWE, and you can argue with me and disagree and say it's a better show than I'm giving it credit for, but the rating speaks for themselves. People are leaving. They're not watching anymore. They're not interested, and there's a reason for that. Moving on to one of the biggest losers in the wrestling world, Thea Trinidad, also known as Zelina Vega in the WWE, returned to SmackDown last night. And with all due respect to Tommy End, aka Aleister Black, I know this is his, and I don't know enough about this. I don't know if this is his girlfriend, fiance, or wife. I don't know if they're officially married or anything, but with all due respect to Tommy and Zelina Vega, Thea Trinidad is the biggest idiot in sports entertainment right now. She has been misused, mishandled, abused, threatened by the WWE when she was under contract with them consistently. She was let go because, and I gave her credit when she stood up for herself with her social media accounts and continued to do what she was going to do despite WWE warnings, because they should not have the right to control your life that deeply, considering you're an independent contractor. They don't want you to use the name you use in the WWE. That's fine. But you know what? Their social media accounts, these performers should be their own, and they should be able to pretty much do what they want on there as far as product sponsorship and the shows that they do. WWE's got no right to collect on that. And I know they've probably put together some sort of legal precedent that their team of high-powered lawyers has managed to keep in place and keep them successfully sucking the money off what these performers are doing on their own personal time. But Trinidad was one of the ones that stood up to them. She continued what she was doing, refused to bow to their rules and their orders, and she was released. And then Aleister Black was released. And what does she do? She signs a new contract with the WWE. She knew she had Tony Khan interested in her. I'm sure they had conversations. She was past her non-compete clause, and she was free to sign a contract with anyone and wrestle wherever she might have chosen. And she goes back to WWE. She had a chance to reunite with Andrade. She had a chance to make a future with herself with Aleister Black, because I'm sorry, Tommy, and I'm not even going to call him that anymore, unless I'm going to get into this in a second. But she had a lot of chances to do some creatively free, groundbreaking things with a couple people that she's got a history with, and she chose to go back to the company that did all this garbage to her, that abused her, that stifled her, that tried to take her income from her own personal endeavors, and she just goes right back in and announces herself as being in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And you know what? Good for you, Thea. Good for you, Zelina Vega. Hopefully that you get everything that you deserve and everything that is coming to you. Because somehow in your weak, vapid, twisted little mind, you think that things are going to be different all of a sudden. What did Triple H give you the sob story about how he appreciates your talent and he apologized for all the bad blood in the past history and now things are going to be different? Good for you. Enjoy it. And I hope that when this contract ends and you realize what a stupid choice this was, nobody sign you. Find a different line of work because you're too stupid to be a professional wrestler and you don't deserve to be in this business because you took a golden opportunity to really do something with yourself and to make a name for yourself and to really put yourself on the map outside of what the WWE was doing with you, and you decided to sign another deal with the devil and go back there. Good for you. And I'm going to leave that at that. That's pretty much all I've got for WWE news right now. SmackDown was once again a pretty lackluster show last night. As far as Edge coming back and Zelina Vega coming back, it's really the only thing that drew any attention. Edge attacked Jey Uso. He didn't attack Jey Uso in the ring, but Jey Uso called out Edge because of Edge coming after Roman Reigns, and Edge pretty much beat down Jey Uso, and nothing really interesting, nothing to hook you in, and nothing to keep you interested for a 2 hour period of time, unfortunately. Moving on to WWE, I'm going to springboard off this Zelina Vega story and ask this question. What is Andrade El Idolo's surprise? I personally, in a previous episode, talked about it being the most likely scenario was Thea Trinidad, bringing her in as Andrade's mouthpiece, as his handler again. But obviously now that's not going to happen. My second option was Roosh from Ring of Honor. He's got a long history with Andrade. They were a tag team. The only thing that might make me backpedal on this and speculate that this might not be the surprise is I really don't know how well known Roosh is outside of AAA wrestling and outside Ring of Honor. My eyes are on a lot of different programming, and I know who he is, and I think he's got a great look. He's a talented wrestler. I think he would fit in well in AEW as maybe a bodyguard type thing or some sort of enforcer for Andrade. But again, I don't know how well versed the fans are on who Roosh is and if that surprise, so to speak, would fall flat if he came out on AEW TV as the Andrade surprise. So this one's back up in the air. I really don't know. Is Andrade going to surprise us with an outsider who's not involved yet with AEW? Is he going to align himself with someone inside of AEW? Could be anything. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have Andrade get involved with one of the current factions inside AEW or with an individual wrestler. But we'll wait and see. Andrade is going to be massively successful in AEW no matter what this surprise is. I think this is actually as anticipated as it is that people want to see what the surprise is. I think this is really the smallest part of the story. I think once Andrade gets in the ring, and he's going to start with Matt Sydal at the Road Rager event, the next AEW Dynamite this coming Wednesday, when everybody really sees what Andrade is capable of with the chains taken off of him and with him being free to do it as he chooses and what he's capable of doing, he's going to be a really big deal in AEW. I can smell it, and I'm looking forward to it. Tony Khan has made an announcement on social media on AEW's Twitter account that he has added a stipulation uh, to the tag team match between the Young Bucks and Eddie Kingston and Penta El Zero Miedo. This is a title match. Kingston and Penta won their qualifier match last Dynamite, giving them the title shot against the Bucks this coming week. And Tony Khan has added the stipulation that this is going to be a street fight. So, you've got two teams that absolutely work so well together, and their contrasting styles are really what make these matches absolutely spectacular. The Young Bucks, of course, are extremely athletic, high flyers. Penta also is in that category without a doubt. He's one of the massively popular luchadors in the world, and deservedly so. But working with Eddie Kingston, they've got this nice synchrony in their styles that really put it together. And the matches between these guys and the Bucks have been just phenomenal. The times that they've met so far, and I'm looking forward to this one. And adding that street fight stipulation, without a doubt, AEW has done the street fights absolutely right, and this should be no exception. So much looking forward to this, and I can't wait for this. Speaking of Eddie Kingston took a lot of heat this past week. He cut a promo that was filmed after not this past weekend's Dynamite, or this past Wednesday's Dynamite, but the one that was on the Saturday before that, the last preempted Dynamite from the NBA schedule. And he talked about, he didn't name names, and I think that's the important thing that I want to touch on here. And obviously everybody knew who he was talking about. He talked about how he loves AEW, about how AEW treats its legends, about how AEW cares about the fans and the wrestlers, and about how the wrestlers love professional wrestling and they do what they're doing because of their love of professional wrestling. And he basically got slammed on a lot of outlets for taking shots at the WWE, and most notably and specifically so was Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM. Bully Ray basically said that Kingston needs to shut the F up and stay in his lane. And you know what? I don't listen to a lot of Busted Open Radio, and I would like to more because they've got a lot of guests on that I want to hear from. But Bully Ray just opens his mouth and spews out opinions that he just makes himself sound like an idiot. Like, what does he care what Eddie Kingston is talking about? Eddie Kingston isn't insulting him. He isn't taking shots at him. Eddie Kingston is entertaining the fans. He's one of the best promos in professional wrestling. When he gets a microphone in his hand, there's going to be audio gold. Let him get these fans passionate and fired up. He didn't say anything that was wrong. He was 100% spot on of everything that he said. But you know what? Because he's making vague shots at the WWE, all of a sudden he's a bad guy. No, you know what? You know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of wrestlers that get fired by the WWE, released by the WWE with this idiotic budget cut excuse. And the first thing they do is they go to social media and they gush over WWE. Thank you so much for the experience. I get it. You don't want to burn any bridges, but you know what? You're thanking the WWE for treating you like a piece of garbage, for tossing you out when there was no reason to, for not using you and putting your talents on display where, you know what? If they did want to release you, they could come to you and say, hey, you know what? Our reasons are whatever they are. We're going to make some cuts, and we're thinking about cutting you. But before we let you go, we're going to give you some TV time to put yourself on display and let other companies see what you're capable of, so that when you leave here, you've got your absolute best shot to get another gig, to get another job with another promotion. What are you thanking the WWE for? Thank you for treating me like garbage. Thank you for putting me off camera for all these years, not letting me perfect my craft, not letting me wrestle and get myself on TV and get interest in me and give me the opportunity to springboard off this and do other things. Stop thanking these people. These people don't care about you. If they cared about you, they A, wouldn't have released you in the first place, or B, if they did have to release you, they would give you the opportunity to have better prospects on your horizon. And they've done none of that. Stop thanking them. Be honest. Jon Moxley was openly critical. He's still, I consider what Jon Moxley, the way he handled himself after his release, as more of a professional approach to it. He talked about the things that were wrong in the WWE, about the creative process, and about how it's impossible to get an audience with Vince McMahon, and how Vince doesn't listen to you, and he uses this Jedi mind trick to make you think that you're wrong and he's right and everything's going to be great. But you know what? He did it respectfully, and I'm fine with that. You don't have to jump on a podcast and say that Vince McMahon is a scumbag and he's never done anything for me and I hope he dies. No, that would also be over the line, tasteless and unfair. But just be honest. They did nothing for you. You're thanking them for basically throwing a huge wrench in your career. And somebody like Thea Trinidad that takes that, swallows it, and then goes back, I have absolutely no respect for these people and could care less about what happens in their future in wrestling. Don't wish them sickness, death, nothing stupid like that. But if you're that much of an idiot where you're going to go back to a company that clearly has no history of treating you with any respect, then you deserve whatever comes your way in this business. And if you lose your spot, if you lose the interest of other promotions and you can't continue in this line of work, that's your own fault. And you've got nobody to blame but yourself. Also this week, after the last episode of Dynamite, Jim Ross took some... I can't help but laugh and shake my head, because Jim Ross has been doing this. He's been in this business for so many years. He's worked for so many different companies on a very high level. And realistically, he's worked for the WWE for a lot of years as a lead commentator, as talent relations. He's done it all. He knows more about this business he's forgotten more about this business than most people will ever know. And JR had this little Freudian slip on AEW TV where he called it WWE Dynamite, and the entire internet world is flipping out. JR needs to hang it up. JR, he can't do it anymore. He's past his prime. It's time to call it quits. You're all idiots. And I usually don't speak like that. I try to be respectful to everybody, but think about what you're saying. Think about what you're saying. You, in your personal life, you've never misspoke, ever. Not one single time has the wrong words come out of your mouth. And you feel stupid and wish you could just pull it back in and start over, but you can't because it's already out there. Jim Ross is fine. Jim Ross is still, he's on his game. Yeah, he's older. Yeah, he's not as fresh as he was 30, 40 years ago, 20 years ago. But Jim Ross is still Jim Ross. He knows how to call a match. He knows how to make it compelling. He knows how to put the talent over. He does it all right. And Jim Ross will know it's time for Jim Ross to call it quits when he knows it within himself. He's not going to put himself out there longer than he should. And I'm not even going to waste any more time on this, because the people that are out there just complaining about Jim Ross and talking about what a huge mistake this was need to really look in the mirror and figure out your own mistakes before you start pointing out Jim Ross's, because Jim Ross has always been and will know when he's not great at what he does anymore. Moving on to Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega talked about in a recent episode that Kenny Omega is dealing with a lot of injuries, including a sports hernia. He's got a very serious tailbone bruise. He's got, a few things going on. He was dealing with a stomach virus, just a lot of things that would have sidelined a lesser wrestler. And I'm not saying that if you did take these injuries and they did put you on the bench for a minute that you're worthless and you shouldn't be right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that Kenny Omega is arguably the number one wrestler in the world for a reason. And one of the reasons is he pushes himself through everything. When Kenny Omega was the IWGP Heavyweight Champion in New Japan Pro Wrestling, he wrestled with broken ribs, a broken heel. He pushed himself through so many just unbelievably painful things and put on this same high standard performance that he always does. And the fact that he can do that is amazing. But, he's been dealing with these injuries recently, and he talked about, getting up in the morning and feeling sometimes like it might be time to hang it up. But he has recently undergone, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Omega has undergone stem cell and PRP treatments for his hernia. And supposedly, he's feeling much better. And this is phenomenal news because he's got some big matches coming up. He's going to be wrestling Sami Callihan at Impact Slammiversary. He's going to be wrestling Andrade in August at this AAA show for the AAA World title. So he's putting a couple of these belts on the line again. And apparently, I'd never heard of PRP treatment, so I looked it up. And accordingly, PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. And the way this treatment works is the doctors put injections of a concentration of a patient's own platelets to accelerate healing. And apparently the way they do this is they take a certain amount of blood from the patient. They put it in one of these centrifuge machines where it spins it and separates the blood into platelets and plasma and all these other things. And they take the platelet-rich part of the blood and they draw it out of this sample, and then they inject it into the hurt areas. And supposedly this greatly accelerates the healing process. And they didn't talk much about the stem cell treatments that he's undergone, but I know that I don't want to give too much airtime to this guy because I'm not really sure what his story is. But Ryback, I've listened to a couple of his podcasts, and he's undergone extensive stem cell treatments, and he's had absolutely debilitating back injuries, and these stem cell treatments have basically cured him. So if this is something that helps Omega, this is great news. This could put him in a much better situation going forward, and hopefully that's the case. We all love to see Kenny Omega wrestle, and this is something that can really get him back on track, and maybe him feeling better will give him a little bit more confidence going forward in what he still has to accomplish in his career. So good for him, and we'll have to see. I mean, it's hard to tell how this affects Kenny Omega when he gets in the ring because he always gives 100% no matter what. This last match with Jungle Boy was just incredible, and yes, he gave Jungle Boy a majority of the offense in that match, a good 70%, but still, just because you're not delivering the offense doesn't mean that the match is not taking a toll on you and really hitting you hard. The way Kenny Omega performs and sells and gets involved in these things, the taking the bumps is just as brutal as what he does giving the offense with a lot of his high-flying moves. So all the best to Kenny Omega, man. I hope this is really helping you, and good luck in the healing process, and hopefully we'll see you back consistently and regularly in the ring, just doing what you do better than just about anybody else. Finally, just a quick story on New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was reported again by Wrestling Observer newsletter that the New Japan Pro Wrestling Resurgence show in Los Angeles on August 18th, I believe, has sold 1,400 of a grand total of 2,200 tickets. And this is actually really good news for New Japan Pro Wrestling, being that this is a United States-based show. It shows that there's definitely interest there. And, Jay White's going to be defending the Never Openweight Championship, which the more exposure that Jay White gets, especially on this side of the country, on the side of the world, the more the better. This guy is one of the top talents in wrestling right now. He's an unbelievable heel. He's a great wrestler, and he needs more exposure. And to know that he's going to be getting in front of bigger and bigger U.S. crowds is just so good to hear. I just want to see this guy have an unbelievable career. He's still very young, just extremely young, so he's got a lot of time to continue to do what he's going to do. And just for him to be able to get in front of more eyes and people to realize how good he is, this is just phenomenal news. And, John Moxley is also a headliner on the show. He's going to be defending the IWGP United States Championship. So that also explains, probably why a lot of these tickets are going quicker. And I'm sure this is going to sell out well before the event happens. And they may even open up more blocks of seats to add to it. It wouldn't surprise me. But just great news for New Japan, great news for Jay White and John Moxley, of course. So, that's it. That's all I got for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream, and thank you so much for being here. Again, enjoy your 4th of July. Thank you again for being here. If you join me, please click the subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up. Don't forget the bell icon for notifications for wherever I upload new content. And we will see you again next time. Thank you again, and be good to yourselves and be good to each other. Thanks.